Accidentally awakened mind reading. I accidentally knew too much. Colleague A, I really don't want to go to work for a day. Colleague B, harm. Team XX lost. How could it lose? President, I really want to be *O. Colleague C, I'm starving to death, but I still feel a lot of meat on my stomach. Why aren't there fat-sucking mosquitoes in this world? Wait a minute, what just flashed past? I'm the female secretary next to the president. It's rumored that I have a leg with him, but Gabriel Lucy is the other person. Sexual impotence. I've been with him for 5 years, and I've never seen him involved with a woman, and certainly not with a man. Is like a male protagonist, who guards the female protagonist in the Boss article. Isn't he having any first love? We don't know, and we don't dare to ask. Chloe. Coffee. The black coffee from the coffee machine, with milk and condensed milk and a lethal amount of sugar cubes. Stir thoroughly, probably because you are not angry, and your hand moves hard, splashing a drop on the back of your hand. In the spirit of not wasting it, I took it in, and I shrank my double chin. Gabriel Lucy took a sip, his frown soothing, and shook his feet happily. His taste for sweetness has deteriorated. Closed the door and returned to his workstation to continue working on his schedule. There are 3 meetings in the afternoon, and the dog thing has been very busy lately, so I have to follow the axis. I really want to take a holiday. Take a vacation. What's the use of giving me so much money? What's the use of sending flowers, bags, and afternoon tea? The benefits are good, but there is no time to live. Aren't you afraid of sudden death of dog things? Suddenly, my brain buzzed, and my hand on the keyboard drooped. The result is, I died suddenly. I woke up in the hospital with my mind in a mess. Loud sounds filled the ears, and after a sharp tinnitus, there was a sudden silence. Yes, if you don't die, you can live. Single room, with flowers and fruits at the head of the bed. Glanced at the signature, Gabriel Lucy's dog thing. The nurse pushed the door in, smiled and took my blood pressure. The blood vessels are good, suitable for needles. That's a compliment, isn't it? I pulled the corners of my mouth and smiled. Thank you. But she looked at it in confusion. What? I didn't say it, did I? She didn't say the last sentence. So how did I hear it? Mind reading. If you don't die, there will be a blessing. And I, Laurel Hurst, have a golden finger? I tried a few more times, and I could indeed hear the voices of others, and the range was within 2 meters. I was hospitalized for 2 days, and after a thorough recuperation, the doctor released me. When I returned to work, my colleagues sent me condolence gifts, but only my dead boss had to call me through the door to urge me to work. Dead man, HHH. However, given the red envelope he sent for work-related injuries, he could have died a little more simply. Was so busy that after work, there were finally fewer people, and there were no longer all kinds of foul language and national scolding in my ears. Like what? A. What kind of broken plan has not been completed in the afternoon? Idiot. B. How many versions do you want me to change? What do you want yourself? Don't you know yourself? A. The more you change, the more outrageous it becomes. It still looks like the first version is pleasing to the eye. B. Day. And they all keep smiling on the surface, and saying polite words in the workplace. Only I know the national scolding in their hearts. Everyone's attitude towards work is surprisingly consistent, and there is a lot of resentment. The elevator door slowly closed, and suddenly a large palm was stretched out, and Gabriel Lucy walked in. The staff was very knowledgeable and gave way to him, and I silently stepped back. After a moment of silence, the noisy voice of the heart sounded. It's this rich second generation again. What brand of suit? Can I afford a year's salary? This is a certain rich male colleague, in the boss family. It's hard not to be jealous. The boss is so handsome. He looks even more handsome up close. His legs are so long. I really want to talk about a sweet love. Tilda, this is a female colleague. Harm. He does look very deceptive. He looks like an ascetic elite. He wears a straight suit every day, and his whole person reveals a sexy taste. Who can know that he is sexually impotent? Woo. It's hard work today, too, and I really want to be *. I lowered my head and my pupils shook for a while, and there were only 4 people in the elevator. Except for the 3 of us, there were only Gabriel Lucy, I quietly looked up at his upright ass and felt reasonable. No wonder. No wonder there have been no women around. He doesn't have a man around him. Heh. Could it be that he went secretly after work? Whoa. Rich people play with flowers. As I slowly became convinced that he was that kind of person, he suddenly looked back at me. Chloe, are there any arrangements for getting off work? As soon as I wanted to say yes, he said to himself, the driver is on leave today, and if you don't go to the bureau, I remember you can drive. Don't give you a chance to say no. In desperation, I lowered the head of the worker. Okay, Gabriel Lucy. For a while, the sympathetic voices of the workers sounded around him. Laurelhurst is miserable. ×2 drove him to a restaurant, looking at the greenery and feeling very emotional. But I didn't want to go at all. I took out my phone, and turned on the pop-up. And he was polite. I'll be back soon. Hurry up. The boss promises were all lies. I haven't run out of stamina yet, and I really can't afford to be furious. It's been an hour since he glanced at the time. Was he being eaten as a dish by someone else in the restaurant? When I go home, I have to remove my makeup, take a shower and sleep, and if I am late tomorrow, he will not pity me for not deducting full attendance. Damn it. I went in to find the private room, and I saw that Gabriel Lucy had drunk too much, holding her forehead and pretending to be deep. Before I walked in, the conversation was loud. Gabriel Lucy really can't. One sentence controlled me for 3 minutes. It's been so many years, and I haven't won it yet. It can't all be thanks to him. I did all the tricks except to tempt him, and people didn't respond. So it's really dull or don't like it. I, Gabriel Lucy, am a dragon and phoenix, and this face is good enough to be a star. Who wouldn't like it? Gabriel Lucy was annoyed by the crowd, and paused to pour a glass of wine. You guys are not annoying. I have my own rhythm. Everyone coaxed. Oh tilde rhythm tilde, he really has his first love. Really guarding yourself like jade, and waiting. I wanted to listen for a while, but the waiter next to me came over with a fruit plate, and it would be unpleasant to eavesdrop on it again. I walked in and there was silence. Gabriel Lucy, it's not early. There's a meeting tomorrow. Gabriel Lucy honestly got up and was helped back by me, his group of friends. I don't have the eyesight to see it, and I don't have a handle. I stepped on my high heels, and helped him to the front passenger seat. Gabriel Lucy was so drunk that he forced his eyes open. The address of my house. You know that, right? I leaned over and fastened his seatbelt. Yes. Go to sleep. I'll call you when I get home. And he grabbed my wrist and emphasized, let's stay overnight. It's not safe to take a taxi at night. He also knows that it's not safe to take a taxi at night. Is it safe to stay at his house? Just wanted to glare at him, but he was already asleep. Gan, with the anger in his heart. The speed of the car on the road was a little fast. His head was dangling, and when he parked safely in the garage, he suddenly vomit. I closed my eyes, and a series of birds and flowers flashed through my mind. Otherwise, let him sleep in the car for the night. No, if he dies, I'll be held responsible. I really don't want to touch it. I should have watched the drama in bed and watched the handsome guys, instead of facing the boss who vomited. Forget it. The social animal bows its head. I grabbed him by the back collar, trying not to get myself dirty, and finally dragged him away in an awkward position. Years of fitness have come into play, and I have been panting and dragging to the shower. I patted him on the cheek. Gabriel Lucy, wake up. I'll take off your clothes if I don't wake up. The noble face was unresponsive, and he slept soundly. I had no choice but to unbutton his shirt for him. After taking off all the tops, I threw them on the ground and wondered while rinsing them with the shower. How so? No one told me that his pectoral muscles were so big. Broad shoulders, narrow waist and long legs. His pectoral muscles were so big that he couldn't take his eyes off him, and his abdominal muscles were also clearly contoured. Cough. I'll wash him up. The hand pressed up. It was soft, and the feel of the bullet was very rich. Pinch, 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 pinch. Help. What am I doing? I'm not a pervert. I'm not a pervert. Rinse your body and think of the inside of his mouth. It's better to be kind enough to wash it. Breaking his mouth open, the water poured in. He subconsciously shook his head and spit it out, repeating this several times, and even poked his fingers in to clean. He frowned and barely opened his eyes, staring at me in a daze. With my fingers in his mouth, swallowing subconsciously, I felt my fingers squeeze in his mouth, and the coating of his tongue, and mucus slipped through his fingertips. Before I could explain anything, he tilted his head and fell asleep again. How reassuring. I shrugged my shoulders and continued to wash with my fingertips until I couldn't smell anything bad and my fingers pulled out of his mouth. Take a towel and dry him a little. His pants are already wet and sticking to his legs. This one is off. The nature is different. It's just that uncomfortable. I tried to get him to the bed, and he rolled around on the bed and fell asleep on his side. The butt is really warped, and the wetsuit pants are wrapped, and it looks a little more warped. My hand was already clapping in my head, and I said super loudly, smack. He frowned in his sleep and tugged at the sheets uneasily. It hurts. Also, really, ridiculously commotionful. An inexplicable impulse hit. My hands trembled numbly, and I wanted to give him another time, but I bit my lip and insisted, no, no. Although he is picky and inhumane, he pulls me to work overtime every day when he has no sex life, and he asks me to do this and that when he has nothing to do. But that's not a reason for me to hit him, so I slipped away. I still want to. I stood there for 2 seconds, but I still turned my head and fanned it again. What a hell of a shaking holy body. His 1-meter-9 figure curled up, and suddenly his eyelashes fluttered, and he woke up. What are you? Why? My hand was still pressed on his buttocks, and I silently withdrew. You drank too much. I'll send you home. He propped himself up, looked at himself. Help! Why do he have red finger marks on his chest? Am I that strong? You, spanking me, still touching my breasts. The evidence is conclusive, and I can't open my mouth to quibble. So you like it? He approached with the smell of wine, his eyelashes wet and sticky together, thick, black and slender. The eyes under the long eyelashes are moist and moist. I don't know if it's an illusion or something. I always feel that there is an implicit temptation. It was so close that you could see the small mole on the bridge of his tall nose, and the water on his lips. I poured water several times, and my fingers reached in and stirred with it, making sure there was no smell. Why don't you continue? Swallowing saliva. Yes. He took my hand and rested it on my thick pectoral muscles. You like this, don't you? My voice was astringent. Gabriel Lucy, you've drunk too much. He suddenly kissed him, stunned, and didn't look very experienced. The bridge of my nose was sore, and I grabbed him by the hair and pulled him back. Do you know what you're doing? The corners of his eyes drooped slightly, and his eyes flashed with something I couldn't read. And he said with such a weak expression, I want to kiss you. My mind went blank, and I realized that I had put my fingers in his hair and kissed him. Can it really be? Gabriel Lucy, who has always been on the top, let me control it. He let out a muffled snort and tried to respond, his mouth open for me to invade. It's just been cleaned up thoroughly, licking his tongue against the roof of his mouth, reaching deep, or holding the tip of his tongue, and sucking it all the time. Kissing until he was panting. His ears are completely red and so cute. Take a bite. The Adam's apple is also very erotic, sucking or gnawing, leaving a series of marks on the neck without much force. Your skin is too tender, isn't it? He looked eagerly at it, and without having to read minds, he knew he wanted to continue, leaving a tooth mark on my collarbone. I started to gnaw on him again, and the soft muscles bounced in my mouth. And he cried out directly when I held Dodo. The reaction was great. I licked the top to see his expression. It was really good. Sucked up both sides of the water, and then kissed down along the abdominal muscles, all the way to the part of the belt. Well, there was no movement between the legs. He was a little embarrassed, and turned his head to explain. I drank too much, and I couldn't get a little hard. I still unbuckled his belt and pulled off his panties. It's okay. It will make you comfortable. Some words omitted here. When he went to the bathroom to take a shower and came back, he was lying on the bed in a trance, looking a little depressed, not satisfied. He pulled me slimy, just kiss me again, good night kiss after night, and finally fell asleep. The alarm went off, and I crossed it out in a daze, and went to wash up with my eyes half open. Hey, isn't my bathroom right here? Why a wall? I turned my head and looked around, until I saw a person on the bed, and then I was completely awake. Memories come back. Oh my God, I slept with him yesterday. He won't wake up and think I'm molesting him, right? Mom, I'm going to be put in the bureau. Woo woo woo. The quilt moved, He sat up. The thin quilt slid off, revealing a beautiful body full of traces. This look that had been played with fiercely. The face is starting to heat again. I looked away. Gabriel Lucy is awake. Yesterday I wasn't in my mind, so let's just assume it didn't happen. He was looking down to pick up his clothes, and suddenly a shadow was covering his body. Gabriel Lucy leaned his hands against the wall, and looked at him with a gloomy expression. What do you think of me? Didn't you do it? Looking at my body covered with red marks, I swallowed angrily. What happened after drinking? How can you take it seriously? He pinched my face and forced me to look at him. Did you drink? No. I was completely conscious, and I was dazed. I'm with you. How will you let me work in the future? He put his arms around me, buried his face in his chest muscles and couldn't move. His hand struggled and waved twice, and finally hugged his waist firmly. Good happiness. The chest is slammed on the face. Who can stand this? I can only admit it. Finally arrive at the office before going to work. Oh, you can't let your colleagues know about our relationship, or I'll be attacked by a lot of rumors. Not to mention that they have mind reading. They don't speak, and I can hear it when they think about it. So this matter can only be attributed to an underground romance. Gabriel Lucy looked down, but said hello anyway. I hooked his palm, pinched his ass before he stepped out of the elevator, and walked out as usual. Gabriel Lucy stiffened for a moment and followed. The boring work finally has a little fun. Occasionally tease a little in the office pantry, and then stop on the grounds that someone is passing by, to see that he is uncomfortable. I secretly curled the corners of my mouth. Gabriel Lucy loosened her tie with difficulty, and lowered her voice and begged for mercy. Don't make a fuss. I leaned on the table and bent my legs to help him cover up. You can refuse me. He bowed his head for a long time, and did not say a word of refusal. There are 2 more meetings in the afternoon. Don't be distracted. I patted him on the shoulder to encourage him, and I left with my coffee. After work, he worked overtime as usual, and I still had to accompany him. Watching other colleagues get off work one after another, I silently gritted my teeth. I thought he was a little cute just now, but now I just think it's hateful, and quickly opened the software. I ordered something. What, a stick, a line, a ball, or something. I was squeezed at work, and I was going to squeeze him in bed, and the thought of being able to play with him hard made me excited. Laurelhurst, come in. I pushed the door open and locked it. You should call me Chloe at work. Right. Gabriel Lucy waited behind the door and immediately hugged her. You've really gone too far today. I said that the project has been completed. Why do you have to work overtime? It turns out that I want to get revenge. Wet and sticky kisses. He kept sticking to me, and I didn't let go. I struggled. What do you have in your pocket? Me. His face was stoic, and he gasped twice. What else can it be? Isn't he unable to get up? I was surprised that he bit my ear and said viciously, You don't think I can't do it, do you? I said I drank too much yesterday, so it's not that he can't do it, and can only rely on the back, but he simply likes to use the back. He is that kind of fetish. It also makes sense. It's okay. Keep kissing. He became more and more engaged, until he pressed my hands above his head. Wait. Why is it such an aggressive action? This does not match the voice I received. Gabriel Lucy, how do you feel disobedient? Hurt you? He let go and continued to grope for me, wanting to kiss again. I poked my fingers in his shoulder, pushing away a little bit. Something really wasn't right. His heart was clearly the kind of person who knelt down and begged me to step on him. And now he's the proactive type. Are you a dual personality? He was a little confused under my scrutinizing gaze. You don't like it. I can listen to you. You're too tall. Get on your knees. He hesitated, unwilling and forbearing, and knelt down without saying a word. As if feeling humiliated, he turned his head away from me. The blood vessels on the side of his neck bulged, and his suit pants on his lower body were also bulging. The superior is submissive and lustful. I stepped on my foot, the soles of my heels touching the sensitive area, and he gasped in pain, holding my ankle, looking like he wanted to stop it but didn't dare. Laurelhurst, don't do this to me. If you don't want to, just leave. Don't you have long legs? With tears in his eyes, he looked at me deeply, but finally endured it and let me abuse me. Good boy. The next day, Gabriel Lucy looked at me, with a lot of resentment. Well, isn't he cool too? As he handed him the papers, he grabbed my wrist and said, Laurelhurst, are you friends or lovers to me? Does this need to be asked? Yes, of course. As soon as my mouth opened to make up canon, he was about to cry angrily. Laurelhurst, do you have a heart? I've liked you for 4.5 years. Don't you feel anything? I've got you on your knees. What do you want me to do? His voice grew louder and louder, and I looked at the door that wasn't closed tightly, and covered my mouth in panic. He pressed my hand and didn't let me cover it. I cooperate with your sexual fetishes, not because I am cheap, but because I like you. Why? With me, I don't like to be able to stop at any time. What are you running? I couldn't do it in my heart, and my mouth was pushed on me. I frustrated and retreated, then forget it. He caught up with an apologetic look on his face and carefully grabbed me. Wait, I'm not complaining. I want you to care about me. Gabriel Lucy, you're a really strange person. What kind of affection do you pretend to be inexplicable? What do you say like me? How do I not know? Thinking that he was my boss, I swallowed back more ugly words. I sighed deeply. So I said, office adultery can't be fooled. It's ugly to break. I turned to leave, but the door was suddenly pressed by him, and at his side was his propped arm. He, wrong, looked at him condescendingly, paranoid and with some resentment. You want to get rid of me after playing. The kiss that I didn't refuse fell. The disparity in physical strength. I couldn't struggle at all, and I didn't dare to speak out for fear of being discovered. The big hand pulled out my shirt, and reached through the hem. The palm of the hand was hot, and it was branded all the way up, and I held it straight. I bit his lip so hard that it smelled bloody, and he didn't let go. I finally noticed a sense of disobedience in him that could not be ignored, and his voice and behavior were completely inconsistent. Which one was true? The sound in his ears became more and more noisy, and suddenly there was a ringing in his ears, and the dark fog in front of him pressed down. I fainted again, waking up in the hospital again. Gabriel Lucy was apologetic. I'm sorry. I silently covered my ears. My heart was chaotic to the point of harshness, and the content was chaotic. I already sensed something was wrong. Gabriel Lucy, I'm going to see a psychiatrist. After examination, it was confirmed that it was a mental illness, and as for mind reading, it was actually auditory hallucinations. The reason is that there is a lot of pressure at work all year round, and I often have to work overtime with my boss, and I don't have much personal space at all. I thought I had a golden finger. Laurelhurst, how are you? I covered my face silently. I want to die. So what he wants to be fucked is auditory hallucinations. It's my subconscious that has an intention on him, and then it's really twice. He's just cooperating with me. Laurelhurst, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. He hugged me and comforted me gently, and with the comfort of my big breasts, I slowly accepted the reality. He gave me a leave of absence, took medicine for half a month, and the mind-reading technique disappeared. Gabriel Lucy came to visit every once in a while, and I opened the door to greet him. The fruit basket or something is acceptable, so don't come in. But this time, as if he couldn't see my rejection, he squeezed in with all his might. Harm. I haven't cleaned up the house in days. It's not dirty. After all, it doesn't fire much. It's just messy, and the sofa is full of washed and dried clothes. He took off his coat, revealing the waistband of the waistcoat, and folded the sleeves of his shirt a few times. Help me fold my laundry. What are you doing? I was speechless and could only fold clothes with him, put the neat clothes in the cupboard, hang the skirt and the like, and then go back to the living room where he is stacking my panties. Don't touch that thing. I grabbed them all, and threw them into the underwear storage box, and the sofa was finally cleared out a little. He looked around with red ears and then at my stacked boxes, ready to do something. Do you have nothing to do with the housework? Laurelhurst, rest well. I'll clean it up for you. It's all unopened couriers, and I'm too lazy to move when I'm on vacation, so I'll pile it up when I take it home. He dismantled them one by one, and by the way, he built the large sets of small ones in the express box. Until, what is this? I snatched it, and my face was red and smoking. Massage stick. I know. What is this thread? Don't be too curious. This was meant to be used on you. He fumbled for a while, pressed it open, and whispered with a red face amid the buzz. Yes. Will it be used on me? Do you know what you're talking about? You want to. Whatever you want. I won't complain anymore. As long as you associate with me. He approached and tentatively kissed me. A kiss that was cautious, as if waiting for my judgment. Gabriel Lucy, what do you like about me? He didn't answer, just unbuttoned his clothes. You like my body, don't you? Play as you like, just kiss me more afterwards. What a pathetic love brain to speak about. I closed my eyes and closed his clothes indiscriminately, but he pressed my hand and put it in the hem of his shirt. Please, reconcile, please. I couldn't bear his pleading, so I kissed him and buttoned them one by one. You can try to fall in love, but you don't like this kind of thing, so let's wait. The situation is almost recovered, and I take the leave to continue working. Gabriel Lucy realized exactly how abominable it is to pull people to work overtime. I didn't indulge in overtime anymore, and I finally had time to live a good life. Everything is going in a good direction, and so is romance. Eating, shopping, watching movies, and dating with rich people are also so boring. I took him by the hand and ate by the lake. My stomach was filled with high-quality ingredients that I couldn't name, and it took a long time to eat. I've been treating him like a boyfriend these days, very solemn and plain. The touch stops at kissing and hugging. After all, he is the kind of slow-burning pure love type. Harm. What exactly is love? Still scratching my head. Can you really respond to him? Laurelhurst. Kiss it. In the shade of no one else, he slowly approached, exchanging liquids and breaths, tasting each other little by little. Gabriel Lucy really loves kissing, as if looking for evidence of mutual love. Laurelhurst, I like you so much. I'm still puzzled. Why do you like me? I asked the question after the kiss. He stroked my long hair and put his palm on my face. I remember that not long after you worked, I had a stomach problem, and after taking medicine, it was you who stroked my hair to soothe. Oh, he wasn't a hateful capitalist then. He made me commute to and from work on time every day, treated his employees gently, and had a good looks. I was fascinated. Of course he was busy, taking care of his stomach pain, buying medicine and porridge and water, and he barely ate some. Lie on the couch and curl up in a ball. I sat next to him, and took my temperature, but luckily I didn't have a fever. Gabriel Lucy was so painful that cold sweat broke out at the corners of his forehead, and a faint pain appeared on his always cold face, full of fragility, and he felt it. I'm going to cry in a second. I wiped my sweat with a tissue, and he looked over with his eyes half open, leaning over to me, his head on my knee. Cover, rubbed slightly, confused. It's so cute. I can't help but gently stroke my hair, and my fingers are slowly inserted into his hair, and the superior is occasional, revealing a hint of vulnerability. I was so lost in my sense of proportion. Fortunately, he didn't care about my transgression later, probably because it was really painful and blurry, and he forgot about it, and now he not only says he remembers, but also likes me for it. Laurelhurst was really gentle, and her eyes were all over me at the time, and when I'm drunk, too. So I'm often drunk and let you take care of it, but you're getting impatient with me. Rarely touch me like that, Laurelhurst. He leaned his head over and rubbed against my hand. I rubbed it, held him down and kissed it. Do you like the feeling of soreness? The position of the heart is numb, all the way down. Laurelhurst. He was not satisfied, and did not stop until a passerby passed by. The sweet and greasy love period lasts until work. What to do? I just want him to gag at work. Will the Grim Reaper's scythe also appear in the eyes of a lover? After work, he held my face and asked, "Are you annoying me? I've seen you frown several times." I laughed. How so? You think about it too much. Silently raised the middle finger secretly. The usual goodnight kiss. I kissed me very fiercely, biting the tip of his tongue, and the lip flap was a little swollen when I gnawed back and forth, and it was hard to say that it was not venting anger. Hurt, but he still kept his head down and let me bite him. The tooth mark on his chin made me realize that I had gone too far. The marks on his body are hard to erase. They were covered by clothes before, but now they remain on his face. What should I do? Can concealer cover it? His eyes flashed. Laurelhurst, my family knew about it before. Do you want to meet them? It's too fast. I immediately wilted, made excuses too perfunctory, and quickly got out of the car and went home. After a while, there was a knock at the door. I didn't want to pay attention to it. It kept ringing. What? Gabriel Lucy propped his hands on the door frame, looked down, unbuttoned his chest twice, generously exposed his collarbone and pectorals, but with an awkward look on his face. Tomorrow is the weekend. I can't go home with this tooth mark. So how the hell do you get on the couch? I just remember a pair of large pectorals rushing to my face, and then my consciousness was weak. When I was sober, I only saw that his clothes were wide open, and he was playing with me so red-faced and heartbeat. I struggled to get up. You can't always test me with this. He pressed my hand again. Play whatever you want for the past 2 days. Take me in for a while. He has so much property. What do you want me to take in? It's not like I want to cook raw rice and cook it yet, and then I'm in charge. No, but this must be very comfortable to bury your face. Woo. I really can't resist it. I love Laurelhurst. Love me a little more. Reason completely melts in a sticky kiss. This person, it's simply a male succubus. It's like it's tailored to my liking. Forget it. It's not a loss anyway. Male protagonist perspective. Gabriel Lucy hired a new secretary, and the last one threw coffee on him 3 times, poured his foot on him 5 times, and was fired by him. Finish. The new secretary he silently examined for a while, but fortunately, he was a person who worked hard. Dedication have never been overstepped. After a few months, they have run in very well, and she often knows what to do with a single look. The work was well arranged, and before he could ask what was going on, she investigated it. Gabriel Lucy is very satisfied, and is paid at the highest standard, until he had a stomach problem, and lay weak on the couch waiting to be relieved. Could have held on, but he poured a cup of coffee to refresh himself, and the situation became serious. Laurelhurst pushed the door in, quickly sensed something was wrong with him, asked what was wrong, and went downstairs to buy medicine. He closed his eyes and didn't dare to move, for fear that the slightest movement would hurt even more. After taking a few bites of porridge and swallowing the medicine, he lay back on the sofa. There was a bed in the lounge to rest on, but he didn't want to move. Quietly patient, his face was lightly touched, and Gabriel Lucy's eyes were half open to see Laurelhurst with a worried face, wiping his sweat. Wrong. Something is very wrong. Laurelhurst looks conscientious, but in fact he is most annoyed by doing superfluous things, and usually exudes a faint polite detachment. I've never seen her like this, caring for the gentle appearance. He subconsciously leaned over, wanting to lie on her lap to show weakness, and wanted to be hugged and comforted by her. But he could only get a little closer. Too much. It will be like a disciple who uses bitter meat tricks. So what is he doing now? Aren't you also coveting something beyond your own duties? A pair of warm hands slowly caressed it, and inserted it into his hair. The tingling sensation made him soften his body a little. What was she doing? Touch him like a dog, but very comfortable. His eyelashes twitched, and instead of being offended by this intrusive move, he expected more. Even the physical pain is slowly reduced, and it is very comfortable. It's like a gentle touch that only comes out of a dream. A strand of long curly hair hung down and fell in front of his eyes. The fragrance of shampoo lingered, a faint sweet fragrance, and he inhaled it little by little, into the lungs. My heart couldn't help but beat faster. When did it start? Eager to go further, he managed to keep his breathing steady, but the blood was rushing up, and his ears and cheeks were already hot. Look at him. These warmth and emotions disappeared without a trace the next day. Laurelhurst's eyes were still the same, not dodging or covering up. He was the only one who was tempted. Gabriel Lucy sighed, trying to suppress feelings. But feelings are unreasonable. Laurelhurst is very close to her colleagues, and they will tacitly raise their eyebrows and pass the word. They can be seen chattering and laughing during the lunch break. And the most annoying thing is, those women have no sense of boundaries at all. On Laurelhurst's side, girls are already sticky with each other, especially their friends who have menstrual pain, and their faces are pale, and they still insist on going to work. It's pathetic. It's really uncomfortable. The friend complained like this, and lay down on her lap, and Laurelhurst very thoughtfully rubbed the palm of her hand, and applied it to her lower abdomen, and the other hand touched her head with pity. So what he gets is an exclusive benefit for the sick number. Nothing special. Gabriel Lucy gritted his teeth with jealousy. He was not uncommon. A week later, he managed to fall ill again. Why do you say success? Because it is his own doing. In the air-conditioned room, I was shirtless and blew the cold wind, and I fell asleep in a daze, and finally caught a cold. His sneezing voice echoed in the office. The afternoon. He had a fever and was lying on the couch in a daze, honestly holding a thermometer. Laurelhurst sighed as she touched his forehead. You're in your 20s. How can you freeze yourself in the summer? He snorted and rubbed his head in her belly. Yes, finally on her lap. Laurelhurst was always extra patient with the sick number. He looked at her with his eyes half open. There was no look of impatience. She really, very accommodating to sick numbers. Her heart was pounding so fast that she was about to jump out of her chest. Her head was dizzy, her soul felt light, and her breath was full of her smell. I like it so much. I like it so much. But I can't say what I like. He is not attractive to her, and if he confesses rashly, he will only refuse. Confession should be the propellant after mutual affection. What can be done to attract her? His face and family background were always invincible before. He didn't have to do anything, just standing there. There were countless women coming and going, so he won't pursue others. Gabriel Lucy's frustrations were answered after a dinner party, where Laurelhurst's cheeks were flushed and she was excited to talk to her female colleague. He leaned a little closer and listened. Talking about men. I like thin skin like no. 3. And I like thin skin like it best. Chloe, what do you like? Laurelhurst leaned over and looked at it, and then said in surprise. 5. I like big breasts. She was drunk, her eyes glinting, and she emphasized, big-breasted muscular men are the best. After speaking, he crooked into the woman's pile, and the corners of his mouth smiled drunk. Gabriel Lucy subconsciously pressed her chest. It turned out that she liked to do this. Again, in the background sound of KTV noise, he pricked up his ears to listen to their conversation. Does Chloe like a master or a puppy? Laurelhurst curled the corners of her lips, and smiled faintly. I like to have my master kneel down and be my dog. He didn't understand for a while, and when he went home, he checked a lot of information before he blushed, and raised his legs to cover up. It turned out that she liked this. Again, at the company's afternoon tea, he sat behind the green plants and looked out the window, but his mind was all about their conversation. I like to be a husband. Chloe, who doesn't like a husband? A man's domineering should be reflected in housework and bed. Several people exchanged tacit glances. Oh tilde, he understood her little by little, and changed himself little by little, until he, infallible, the end.